year for the Tuolumne. I mean, all the floodplains were activated for months and months at the expense of 5 terrible years. And that's what the Bay Delta Plan is trying to correct, maybe 40%. And then even in 2017, it probably would have still been 50 or 60%. So another reason why they're holding back water and being very conservative, they're looking at 2040, and they have the demand projections, and then Plan Bay Area came along. So this is required for metropolitan areas that to take a look at how we're going to manage the jobs housing imbalance, how we're going to address traffic, etc. So the question here wasn't what do we want the Bay Area to look like in 2040. It was like, well, how many jobs are going to be created? And a lot of this is like cities saying we want to create a lot of jobs. It's like, well, so how many people are going to come, and how do we put people close to the jobs and reduce the housing crisis and traffic ripoff? But the jobs have vastly outpaced housing in the time that we've seen between 2010 and now, probably by about 5 to 1. And so we only added 13% of the housing we needed, but half of the jobs were created. So the jobs housing imbalance is one of supply and demand. And supply means we don't have enough housing for how many people who want to live here. And demand is how many people want to live here. And this is the job center pretty much of the world. And so it's like all these people are moving in, housing can't keep up, and it's hardening our dependence on imported water from the Tuolumne and the Delta. And is that going to make our lives better? People said, hey, I'm much more likely to conserve if my conservation benefits the environment than if it just enables more development. Again, these were San Francisco voters. And we asked, how do you think Plan Bay Area is going to affect your quality of life? A lot of people didn't have an opinion, but of those who did, 85% said it would make their life worse. So it's like, maybe we need to work that into kind of a vision for the Bay Area. So I want to talk a little bit about climate change, because that's a real driver for water agencies to be conservative. And when you hear climate change, it's like, wow, there's going to be less water available, which is in a lot of places likely. But what do we know about climate change and how it will affect the Tuolumne River? Well, the Mount Lyell Glacier that you saw at the beginning, the headwaters, is disappearing. Maybe has 5 or 10 years left, and then it's gone. But it's only 0.2% of our water supply. So what we're going to see is that the Lyell Fork, that it keeps wet throughout the summer, is not going to be wet in the upper stretches, which will be unfortunate. So this is probably the big deal. We're going to see bigger swings. We're going to see bigger wet years, and we're going to see smaller dry years. We might see more strung together. Maybe we'll see some series of dry years and series of wet years. The series of dry years is what really worries people, and we do need to be prepared for that. But the SFPUC is in a pretty good position, much better than most water agencies, because they do have all that storage. They're not dependent on the State Water Project, the Central Valley Project to get water from the Delta. They want to keep their reservoirs full. So we also know that more precipitation is going to fall as rain, and there's going to be less of a snowpack. So there will be earlier runoff from the Tuolumne watershed. This will probably actually benefit the SFPUC, because if we shift water out of this 4,000 CFS area to the 2,400, their rights of proof. And we looked at, well, what if there was in the 87 to 92 drought, what if there was a 3-week shift to earlier runoff? And we found that San Francisco would get enough water to last an additional year at the expense of the irrigation districts. There's not more water in the system, it's just how it gets allocated through the waterways. So the rim fire, 97% of that was in the Tuolumne River watershed. It burned 20% of the watershed. And in 2017, it was the second wettest year on record in the Tuolumne watershed, but produced the most runoff. So, and for fortunate occurrence of climate change for forest health is going to result in more runoff, which increases water supply. They don't really think about these potential benefits, which are unfortunate that there's the trade-off there. But if we want to talk about climate change, let's dig in a little bit deeper. But obviously, we need to use water more efficiently. There's a lot of technologies we've been implementing for decades. There are great new technologies coming about, especially with the price of water going up. So you got high-efficiency washing machines, low-flow shower heads, and half as much water. You can get them free, basically, from your water agency. Toilets, when I was growing up, about 5 gallons a flush. These ones use a little over a gallon. Made a lot of progress. Native landscaping, drought-tolerant landscaping. Let's bring back wildlife habitat and reduce our applied water dramatically. There's a campaign called Re-Oaking Santa Clara Valley. People heard about that? Like, let's bring back the oak canopy. Why are we planting magnolias and other trees that need a lot of water when we have the most majestic native tree right here? Gray water, something people can do at home, capturing wastewater from the washing machine, from the shower, and putting it right out into their garden. Trees love that stuff. We don't want to drink it, but trees do. Recycled water at a larger scale. People are familiar with purple pipe. That's for irrigation. But you can do advanced purified and basically creating drinking water quality. I mean, this is astronaut water. Santa Clara Valley Water District, they have this facility out near Alviso. It produces 8 million gallons per day, which is about what Mountain View uses. And they're going to bump it up to 32 million gallons per day. Right now, I think they're just blending it with the purple pipe water to bring down the salt content, and redwoods like it better. But their plan is eventually to go to indirect potable reuse, where they use it to recharge the groundwater, and then the groundwater is used for everything, including drinking. Or direct potable reuse, which is putting it right into the line. And now I would say this advanced purified water might not be as good as Hetch Hetchy water, but it's better than what Valley Water provides right now. The idea of indirect potable reuse, letting it go through the soil to get into the groundwater, provides an extra environmental buffer. Psychologically, people are more comfortable with that. In Orange County, they're doing 100 million gallons per day, so half of the whole SFPUC demand. But as it's going through, it's picking up all sorts of things that are in the soil. And actually, the quality going in is better than the quality coming out. So we'll be hearing a lot about that. And the all the surveys say that the best messengers for, hey, this water is good, are the medical community and the environmental community. And we keep reminding Valley Water, it's like, if you want us championing these projects, you got to show that there's an environmental benefit. If you're just producing more water to facilitate all the development here that people aren't that enthusiastic about, it's not going to sell. But if it's helping us supplant water we take from the Tuolumne and other rivers, then there'll be a lot of support for it. Tremendous opportunities in the Central Valley. The farmers who purchase Tuolumne River water, they pay $20 an acre foot. So imagine an acre or a football field a foot deep in water. They pay $20. We pay almost $2,000. So 100 times more. We have a price signal, they don't. And they only charge 20% of the cost of delivery. So they subsidize the water to the farmers. There was actually a lawsuit from their electric customers saying, you're charging us more so you can give them this subsidized water. So they don't have a revenue stream to offer incentives. Like here, you could replace your lawn during the drought, and they pay for it. You could get all sorts of rebates for things. They don't have that supply. So the economics in the Central Valley encourage water waste. Maybe we in the Bay Area could say, hey, you know what? We'll help you with all this stuff because it's going to be a lot cheaper than what we could do here because we've already picked the low-hanging fruit. Still a lot of low-hanging fruit and vegetables and nuts in the Central Valley. Why don't we fund a lot of this and we do shared savings that we get some of that water that's being saved. Bottom line is if we had a drought worse than the 6-year drought of record, the state is not going to allow agriculture to use water to grow alfalfa and low-value crops when Silicon Valley is in desperate need of water. They have the right and the ability to say, hey, you need to sell the water. Now, what the irrigation districts always say is like, well, it's not just, you know, the value of growing the crops, there's the multiplier effect. It supports our whole economy because you've got processors, you have distributors, and, you know, but if you include all those costs, the value of an acre foot of water in the Central Valley is somewhere between $500 and $1,000 an acre foot for low value crops. And here again, we're paying about $2,000. So just the difference in the economics and the value of water for agriculture or for high tech is incredible. 26% of the crops grown in California are exported overseas. So water is a public trust resource. That means it belongs to all the people of California. And you can argue that, well, you know, if agriculture is producing cheap food for us, we're benefiting from it. But if they're profiting off of our water, selling almonds overseas, that's not really right. That's not the right use of a public trust resource. So I think there's a lot of room for negotiating around this to get more support from agriculture and to give them support. I mean, I think we're so fortunate that the Bay Area, 7.5 million people, has this incredible agricultural economy so close by. I mean, as far as climate change resilience and changes, you know, we're not going to be transporting stuff halfway across the country or around the world. It's really valuable. So we need to work together and make sure that we're all in good shape moving forward. So another thing we've been promoting is, just like they have the water bank at Don Pedro, to create a groundwater water bank, where again, they don't have a lot of money to put into infrastructure, but we do. It's like, okay, hey, let's put in the infrastructure to recharge the groundwater basin there, so that water is available during droughts. But we have an ability to bank water there, and we can do the same thing, capture Hetch Hetchy water when we otherwise would be entitled to subtract an equal amount. So that's starting to get some traction. So that's the end of my my slideshow. We got a couple things coming up with the State Water Board in the next couple months. I do have a email list sign-up sheet. I know some of you are already on my list. If you aren't and you want to be on, I keep everyone posted on how you can be involved. We try to get people to write letters. We try to make it as easy as possible to go up to Sacramento. Sometimes there might be a hearing at Valley Water here in San Jose, or anywhere up to San Francisco. So we can keep you posted. And I do want to mention that we have our annual Fall Gala coming up on Sunday, the 6th of October. And our honoree is Felicia Marcus, who was the chair of the State Water Board when they made the brave and bold decision to adopt a 40% unimpaired flow. And her term was up in January, and new Governor Newsom chose not to reappoint her. Best person we've ever had in the State Water Board. Really sharp, very polite, trying to get to solutions but not compromising on the environment. And he replaced her. So that's what you get. That's the reward you get for really doing a good job. It's a little pricey. I think it's about $175 a ticket, but it's a really nice event, and it supports Tuolumne River Trust. So I'd love to have you join us if you're interested. And with that, I will take a breath and see if anyone has any questions or comments or corrections. Pat?
You mentioned public trust, water is a public trust, and one thing you haven't mentioned is the Mount Lyell decision, which basically put all appropriate water rights subject to the public trust, and ecosystems, of course, are part of that public trust. Why hasn't the state played that card?
I think it would be more likely for a non-government organization to play that card, to kind of force the state to accept that argument or not. You hear talk about it, I hear talk about it, and I would guess that no organization felt like they had the resources to pursue that. I don't know, how long did the Mono Lake issue continue?
How long did it take?
Yeah. But I agree, Pat. I think that there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a timing issue. The environment isn't as high of a priority issue as it's been in the past. I mean, in a way, it's like, thank you all for coming here tonight. And you could have been working on immigration, you could have been working on to defeat racism, health. I mean, all these different issues are so high priority that maybe they feel like it wouldn't get traction. Yeah.
You mentioned you were doing work on regarding the rim fire.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of stuff are you doing and how's that?
So we're doing everything from hands-on habitat restoration with volunteers and other groups, and we've planted, I don't remember the numbers, but probably close to 100,000 trees. Doing some trail work, we're doing some meadow restoration. Meadows are great they serve as a sponge and they absorb water and release it slowly. But we're also working on policy stuff. And one of the reasons why we're having these mega fires is because for a long time they come in and clear cut forest, and then all these small trees grow back really thick. And when you have a fire come through, it just takes off, and if there are any big trees left, it gets up into the canopy and it just burns everything. In a healthy forest, you have a lot fewer trees and they're a lot bigger, and fire might come through every 10 or 15 years, and it burns, the small stuff on the ground and small things, kind of clears it out, but the big stuff survives. Mm-hmm. And so, how do we manage forests so we're preventing these mega fires? And we're doing some large-scale experimental work there. So I think we've gotten some good grants to do that. We're working, one thing that's really exciting is, unfortunately in the Bay Area we've had an oppositional relationship with the water agencies. In the past we've worked really well together, but on this issue, they're just, they've drawn a line in the sand. After the rim fire, there's this coalition called Yosemite Stanislaus Solutions, and it's made up of logging interests, ranching, maybe mining, environmental groups, recreation. It's kind of like, I don't know if they had much to do, but then the rim fire hit, and they started working together and came to the Forest Service with a compromise plan that everyone agreed to. Mm-hmm. And that was to reduce the amount of salvage logging. So you've got these dead trees, they still have commercial value. They also have ecosystem value. Snags and down logs are really important, keeping that biomass there to rebuild the soil. And the compromise was to reduce the salvage logging by 2/3, to not create a lot of new roads into other areas and keep really sensitive drainages off limits. And so hand in hand, loggers and environmentalists went to the Forest Service and said, we like this plan, and made their decision really easy. The reason the loggers supported it is because even just 1/3 of the salvage logging, all of the mills there in that region would have been as busy as they could be. Mm-hmm. And if they weren't getting sued by environmental groups, they could start salvage logging immediately, and they only had about 1.5 years before the boring beetles get into it. It's not very good way. So that coalition has been applying for grants and getting, I think we got a $2 million grant, and to really kind of do larger scale, longer term planning. So those are some of the things we're doing up there.
Peter, I have another question.
Yeah.
You mentioned groundwater recharge for storage.
Yeah.
Where are those aquifers and what capacity do they have?
So it's a wonderful aquifer in San Joaquin County. In Stanislaus County, where the Tuolumne River flows through, it's in better shape than the other counties. As you go south in the valley, they get worse and worse. So there's not as much opportunity there, but there is some opportunity. In other areas, they're critically overdrafted, and the aquifers would love more water, but there's not really much water in those areas. So.
Would operate these like current water banks?
So they would operate like Kern Water Bank. The Kern Water Bank is a little different in that like Valley Water they've bought into that, and they can't access the water. In Stanislaus County, the farmers never be able to access it with irrigation. they can't access it, but if there's a third party that can, that also has delta rights, they can let Valley Water take their delta rights, and then they can take an equal amount of water or maybe more from semi-tropic.
Yeah, we're kind of crossing swords right now, because they're right up at the capacity in semi-tropic,
Oh, yeah.
and they refuse to ask for more. There's another 500,000 available.
Valley Water, is it?
Yeah, they won't ask for more. They got a whole bunch of suddenly concerns
Yeah.
in not expanding that, so at the end of this year, they're gonna run out of remote storage. And
Yeah,
they're
it
gonna have to
might-
be wasted water.
Yeah.
That's gonna come.
There's a canal there that they overpumped the groundwater, and this canal has slumped and is less functional. And there was a water bond a year ago that was going to help pay for that, which environmentalists didn't like. It's like, why are we paying for their problem? But the water bond had 80% of the really good stuff, but Sierra Club and others opposed it based on that. So that canal might be part of the problem, but I know during the drought, Valley Water couldn't take advantage of semi-tropic at one point, and I think it's because they didn't have an intermediary who
Well, the intermediary became Met.
met.
That gave them some of their delta water and
They
then pumped
Yeah.
water out of the basin into the aqueduct. So
Yeah.
it's just, it took a fourth party to make that work, but it
Yeah.
still worked.
Yeah,
And so that shouldn't sour the deal.
right.
The fact that we doubled our groundwater storage with that 2 signatures, no dams required, no EIS.
Right.
Just start storing water tomorrow.
Yeah.
But, they want to build a new dam.
We have with the groundwater expert in the room here, Charles. Knows all about groundwater. But I think groundwater recharge has got a lot of potential. And I mean, there are a lot of overdrafted aquifers, and if you could get water to them, in really wet years like 2017, it doesn't harm the environment to take a big chunk of that, and it could help the environment long term because it's providing that backup water supply. Charles?
So you talk about the Bay Delta plan, there's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, we're still in phase 1. There's also the California Water Action Plan, and I think it's being updated right now. And then, maybe can you talk about the interplay between the Bay Delta plan and the California Water Action Plan, but also, there's mention of this blueprint called the San Joaquin Valley Water Blueprint that might get attached to the revision to the Water Action Plan.
Yeah.
And how might that play into all this?
I don't know enough about those issues. I know the governor is putting a lot of energy into a water portfolio, like looking at a lot of different options. It's not just building more dams, but investing more in conservation, water transfers, maybe desal, other things. So my guess is that ties into those things. I would say a connection would be that if we feel more comfortable that we have enough water, then water agencies aren't going to be opposing things like the Bay Delta plan. So that's probably that side of the coin. And for Tuolumne River Trust, we have a Revive the Tuolumne campaign, which has 2 parts to it. One is let it flow, getting more water in the river, and the other one is use it wisely. Let's conserve, use recycled water, groundwater, so that we can meet our needs, but also help the environment. So, but you inspired me to dig into that a little bit more. Anything you want to share about it?
No, I just what I read on the public record and various other blogs.
Anything else? Did everybody get a chance to sign my sheet if they wanted to be on my email list? Great. Well, thanks you all for coming here, and Gary, thank you.
You seem to reliably always draw a crowd and then home.
Best group ever.
Thanks.